For more now, we turn to CBSN contributors Leslie Sanchez and Zerlina Maxwell. Zerlina is a Democratic strategist. Leslie is a Republican strategist. Leslie, let's start with you via Skype from Houston. I wanted to talk about the White House. They've not really followed up on the president suggesting that there might be tapes of his conversations with James Comey. Obviously, many people drawing comparisons to President Nixon and his practice of secretly recording Oval Office chats. Comey says he's not worried. But do you think the administration needs to clear this up?
It's certainly on the agenda, and if you look at the fact that the House Oversight Committee has really, you've seen several letters from members asking if there are tapes, and if there are there tapes specifically that pertain to Comey. There's not going to be any change in that. There's going to be a lot of instances where members of Congress are going to be concerned, and it's also the public is concerned. The onus is on the president. The president has a habit of recording a lot of his conversations as a private citizen. So it's not unheard of, but it's certainly going to have to be clarified.
Zerlina, what should the Democratic strategy be in dealing with this? We've already heard lots of Democrats on the Hill saying that they want an independent counsel or commission. Is that the way to go?
Yes, I think that's the way to go, because at this point, it's clear that partisanship is getting in the middle of getting to the bottom of what happened in the election. And I think that Democrats, they just need to stay together, stick together, and hold tight. But really, Republicans also need to stand up and do what's right for the country, because what happened in our election, regardless of whether or not you supported Donald Trump or not, is really serious. Russia impacting the election by hacking the DNC, hacking John Podesta, and then strategically releasing emails. They didn't just release everything all at once. They released it on the first day of the DNC. They released it the day after the Access Hollywood tape. So I think understanding the context in which the hacking took place and the propaganda campaign that preceded that, that's important to get to the bottom of, regardless of where you stand on the political aisle.
And Leslie, when you talk about the credibility the White House has right now dealing with the Comey issue, what does the White House need to do to get ahead of this?
Sure. The challenges are very, the struggle is real, as I've heard from many of my colleagues, especially those who are working even within the administration. It's a new administration that's learning how to be a Trump administration. It's a president who likes to micromanage, likes to manage his own messaging, and you've seen a lot of back and forth and kind of disarray. One person described it as being in a 24-hour soul cycle, like that spin class, with only one water break. It's extremely difficult to keep that pace and keep the message consistency, which is why you're seeing the president push back on that. And the messaging and understanding how to drive a narrative and a political agenda is going to be imperative for this White House. The president has certainly his learning curve, but he has a very strong team that's capable of navigating him. He's going to have to depend on them.
Soul Cycle is very hard, for the record, if anyone's ever been in it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, too. I want to get both of your thoughts, though. The president did state on Friday that perfect accuracy from his staffer is just not possible. So what is the country expected to do when you've got one thing from the White House communications thing and something totally different from the president of the United States?
That's a really big problem, because when you have an international crisis or even a domestic crisis, we need to be able to trust the words coming from the podium and coming from the White House. I think the problem in this particular case is the reason why their story was so laughably ridiculous. We fired James Comey because he was mean to Hillary Clinton, is because the real reason they fired James Comey, and Donald Trump said this in his interview with Lester Holt, is because of the Russia investigation. And so they were trying to basically obfuscate the real reason for the firing, which is problematic and actually raises a lot of questions. I don't know if he actually obstructed justice, but legal experts are asking that question because he, in his own words, is admitting that the Russia investigation impacted his decision to fire the lead investigator, and that's really problematic.
Leslie.
Right. I think the other side of that, I mean, it's a bit more complicated, and that there has been an ongoing question as to whether or not Comey was the right person for that position. He asked for an independent evaluation to be conducted, and it was. He reviewed it and he acted. Did he have other personal interests? It seems that he's indicating he did, but that doesn't take away from the bigger issue, which is a lot of people felt that Comey had been compromised in his ability to do that job. Was it managed well? No. Was it executed poorly? Yes. but it doesn't take away from the fair issue of whether or not Comey was right for that job.
And Leslie, switching gears, I want to ask you about the president. He's going to be visiting the Middle East soon. He'll go to Saudi Arabia, Israel, Italy as well. So what can we expect from this first foreign trip?
You know, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, I would say, certainly from the diplomatic community, certainly from our friends and allies in the Middle East, because they don't really know where they stand. And it's imperative that I think we've seen before when the president's in those situations, he does come from a position of strength, a position of alliance, but also looking to protect U.S. interest. So I think the tone will be different. You're going to look for camaraderie, but he's going to have a heavy hand in that. And it's going to be something that we've never really seen before. I think the one thing we can expect is it will be unorthodox and unconventional.
Zerlina, we know President Obama, President Trump, President George W. Bush, everyone has tried to make peace in the Middle East.
Right.
It hasn't happened.
Right.
What do you think about this trip? I mean, does he have a shot? Is there something different? He's got that maverick way about him, right?
Yes, but I also think that, you know, while he's unorthodox, and this is really nothing we've seen before in American politics, this is an unprecedented moment we're sitting in. But I think you have to have a deep understanding of the issues in order to come to Middle East peace or some sort of amicable resolution of that conflict, which no president so far have been able to come to that resolution, and they had a full understanding of the issue. So I'm very skeptical that Donald Trump can just say we're going to make peace in the Middle East if he doesn't have a deep understanding of the underlying issues which causes the conflict in the first place.
Yeah, President Obama had folks there well before he even took office looking into this. It was something important to him, and it still was very difficult. Zerlina, we are hearing from North Korea that they might be interested in talks. What do you make of this?
I think that it would be really, really dangerous for us to engage in talks directly with North Korea. There's a reason why previous presidents hadn't done that. There's a reason why we've been very, very careful in our dealings with North Korea, because they're a very imminent threat to us in this particular moment, and we have to be very careful. I'm really concerned with how he's going to behave and comport himself on this foreign trip. I hope they don't give him access to his Twitter feed while he's on this foreign trip, because, you know, it's funny, but it's also not funny, right? Because our allies are watching him. Our allies are watching what happened this week, and they're very concerned with what they've seen, because it seems like this president is impulsive. He acts out of essentially what his gut feeling is in that particular moment, and that's a really, really dangerous thing to have in a president.
Leslie, you've traveled abroad. What would be your advice to the president when he makes his first foreign trip?
You know, I'm really, I don't know that the president would listen to kind of that approach, but I think the interesting part of that is that the president is certainly mercurial, and we, not only the United States doesn't know what to expect, but certainly, as I completely agree, our allies abroad are wondering how the president's stance is going to be. He needs to look at ensuring security and stability, because it really our economic viability, our financial markets, our global integration, all of that depends on looking that the United States is strong. We want to build strong global economies. We want to build allies to solve some of the major national security crises that we're dealing with, and building better alliances where he can be trusted. And as a new president, that is really what diplomacy is about, and putting strong people that can continue that message. So we're going to see if he can put that strong team together.
Leslie Sanchez, Zerlina Maxwell, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.